Adeline, you say? Let's put a stop to that. And we'll play Italian, choosing 2. 2 seems to be like the sweet spot number to choose for Talion. Oh, no, Brutal Cathar. Oh, it had a power of 2. Okay, that makes sense. Copper Go Vanguard. Alright. Nice. That's a good one to draw. Green's Informant. That happens again. Draw another card. They pretty much have to come at me with everything right now. And if I'm blocking anything with the Extraction Specialist, it's going to be that Raffine over there. Or the Raffine's Informant, I mean. Because I want that to die, so that then my Furious Vandal can attack on the following turn. And if they don't attack with anything, I just fly over and win next turn. Nah. Yeah. I guess he didn't see any way out of it either.
I got around to playing some Commander with my younger brothers, and while playing, I kind of got to thinking, it's like, you know what? This Fairies deck doesn't seem half bad. I wonder if I can try to recreate some of this magic in Standard. Knowing that there's a lot of fairies that came out in Standard recently, the most recent few sets, especially with Wilds of Eldraine, we've got a lot of fairies to actually deal with and maybe get a coherent deck going. So remember, there was a Dimir Faeries deck that was around when Wilds of Eldraine first came out, but it didn't really do a whole lot. I think people were trying to go in too many different directions in building this deck. I personally tried a Azorius Fairies deck to see if I could make something work on that side of the spectrum. But I think Dimir works just a little bit better if you focus down the deck just a little bit. So I've got a list going. I think it's going to do okay. So why don't you come with me real quick and we'll go take a look at the deck and we'll see what you think about it.
Alright, so here we are. This is the deck. We are looking at a blue and black Fairies build today. And it's got a few differences that I'm pretty happy with. If you look at it first and foremost, we're not running any of the 1-drop fairies. All of our fairies start in at 2. And the reason why is because most of them have flash. The only creature in this deck that we're not playing at flash speed is Talion the Kindly Lord. All the others have flash. So you have Fairy Mastermind is flash, Fairy Vandal is flash, and also Obira, the Dreaming Duelist, is a flash creature. So this gives us plenty of room in the early game to play around our opponent. If our opponent is playing a bunch of creatures, we can hit them with Fairy Fencing or Sheldred's Edict. If they're playing spells that we need to counter, we have a few copies of Make Disappear and Spell Stutter. So we do have some pretty decent early game against most of what's being played right now. And if they don't play anything that's threatening to us, we use that turn 2 or turn 3 to play our Fairy Mastermind or our Fairy Vandal or any of that stuff on the early turns so that we can, 1, get them growing, and 2, draw extra cards off of our opponents with the Fairy Mastermind. Aside from that, we have 4 copies of Invasion of Amonkhet. I felt like this was a good inclusion because 1, it draws cards for me, discards cards for you, and my entire team is flying. So I will fly over whatever blockers you have to crack this invasion every single time. And when that invasion cracks, you get a 4/4 creature that will then become a copy of target creature in any graveyard, except it's also a 4/4. So if you happen to have, like, say, Fairy Vandal in your graveyard, and you use this, it will come back as a 4/4 flying Fairy Vandal instead of a 1/2, which is great for me. Winged Portent, really solid for this deck because it is instant card draw based off of each creature you have with flying. And since every creature in this deck flies, this will sometimes draw you 3, even 4 cards off of a single cast. Not a bad return on an investment for only 3 mana. And then lastly, you take a look at Talion. I'll go over this real quickly since Talion really hasn't been seen or heard in a very long time. But he is a 3/4 legendary fairy noble at 2, a blue, and a black mana. It's 3/4 flying. As Talion the Kindly Lord enters the battlefield, choose a number between 1 and 10. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with a mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, that player loses 2 life, and you draw a card. I can see a lot of people misunderstanding this card because they'll look at the 2 or the 3 that you say as the number, and they're going to assume that you are saying casting cost. They don't take into account the fact that this also checks power and toughness of cards being played. So you get a lot of free damage and free card draw off of Talion just being on the table. And I often, if not always, set Talion to 2, because most of all the efficient removal spells in the game right now are exactly 2 mana. So this is a very, very good card to have set at 2 on your side of the board. Honestly, for a deck like this, I kind of like this even more than Sheldred. And Sheldred would definitely be a card that would fit this mold, but the fact that this one, flies, and 2, can punish your opponent for playing incorrect cards, that kind of makes it a little bit better in my eyes, at least for this build of the deck. So anyways, that's the contents. Outside of that, we have the lands, which is 4 islands, 1 Otawara, 2 swamps, a Takanuma, 3 Darkslick Shores, 3 Restless Reef, which can honestly win the game on their own, 2 Shipwreck Marsh, 4 Underground River, and 4 copies of the Mirax. So there it is. That's the deck. Let's go ahead and take it out and play a few games with it, and you guys can see for yourself what this deck is all about. Okay, so we have a Mirax and a Takanuma, and a handful of blue cards. Mulligan. Alright, that's better. Darkslick, into Mirax, Faerie Mastermind, 2 Talion, and a Sheldred. I will keep 6, sending back 1 Talion. Play Darkslick Shores to start us off. And he plays a Darkslick Shores as well. Well, I will raise you 1 Darkslick Shores. By Tenacious Underdog. Okay. Alright. End of turn, I play Faerie Mastermind. Ooh. Restless. I like that. Alright, end turn. Boom, ba-doom, boom. Ow. Alright, well, I was waiting to see if they would play something else. So sacrifice a non-token creature. Okay, I'm fine with that. Play Mirax, and play Talion. Choosing 2. 2's a good number. Because most efficient removal spells cost exactly 2 mana. Oh look, a 2 mana spell. It's almost like I predicted it. Alright, play Swamp. Eliminate that. Attack for 2. End turn. Let's see what they do here. They're highlighting my Mirax though, so they are a little worried of that. But if he goes for the Underdog Blitz, I will honestly just let it come through and play my other Faerie Mastermind before it dies, so I get to draw 2 additional cards. Okay, now instead it's a Sheldred, in which case I must say no. Alright, end of turn, play another Faerie Mastermind. My turn, play a Talion. Choosing 2. That's a pretty good top deck. because that tail in will punish him for whatever kind of removal spell he tries to throw at it. And also, if he spends too much mana, he also has a Restless Reef that is posing lethal damage on my next turn. Oh, no, he just chose to play Sheldred. I'll sacrifice a Fairy Mastermind. That's no big deal. Okay. So if I come in with that, that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'll just make it 5. Keep that mana open for Make Disappear, in case they have any kind of a chicanery going on. Good include on the Sheldred, though. I love that card. I honestly like this version of Sheldred more than this version of Sheldred, just because it does more things. And that True Scriptures can be absolutely backbreaking. This might be your last turn, bud. You got 3 cards in hand. You got a Blitz Boy over there in the exile zone. Pass. Alright, end of turn. Make Merrick's token. Looks like he's thinking on something. Oh, he's using his timeouts. Typically, when the opponent starts using their timeouts out of nowhere, it typically means that they're... oh, nice. That they're stalling out. Because they didn't have any recourse. And that just happened to be one of those moments. Okay, what do we got here? So we got an island, a Restless Reef, and a Mirex, and a few creatures and spell stutter. I'll keep it. And we even get to go first. How fortuitous. Alright, up against white something right now. So let's go ahead and play that first. Next, end turn. Probably play Obira first. Cathar Commander, you say? Resolve. Pass. Alright, my turn. Obira. Play a Mirax. Let's attack for 2. There we go. Adeline, you say? Let's put a stop to that. It would be a little too difficult for me to overcome. Attack for 3? Yeah. Alright, my turn. Let's play an Underground River. Attack for 2. And we'll play Italian. Choosing 2. 2 seems to be like the sweet spot number to choose for Talion. Oh, no, Brutal Cathar. Oh, it had a power of 2. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, 2 anywhere on the card. Right. Let's play another Talion. Set it for 2. Play a Restless Reef. And no attacks this time. They are in straight up white. No time for anything else, just white stuff. Coppergo Vanguard. Alright. Nice. That's a good one to draw. Green's Informant. That happens again. Draw another card. Gain some life. It's getting a little scary over there. And that in the graveyard, huh? Well, are you coming at me? It's not coming at me. Alright, let's play this first. Play an invasion. Discard their last card, which was an In the Trenches. How interesting. Alright, let's play Takanuma. Oh wait, we can't. Let's see there. So, what we can do here, we can... Do we want to attack the invasion? If we attack the invasion, we get a copy of Adeline on our side, or Extraction Specialist, actually. That might actually even be better. What's in my graveyard? Nothing at the moment. I would have to have something in my graveyard in order to make that work. So let's see here. I think we need to play a spell. Oh wait, we did play a spell. We played the Invasion Mamaket itself. So, next. Just attack with that. Oh, that's another 2. Okay. Resolve that. Okay. Now it'll come in. Yeah, naturally, that's what you choose. Okay. So let's see how much damage to come in with. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, that's at least 14. So let's see here. Alright. Gosh. Okay, so 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So if I make them sacrifice 1, they would sacrifice the Lunarch Veteran, and then they would cast it as a flyer on the following turn. Either way, that's really bad for me. Let's see here. Let's go and play a Fairy Vandal. Make them lose a life. And then we'll put this in front of that. That's doing the most damage. Actually, no. We'll put this in front of that. At least that way we can get a trade. Alright, let's see here. So they're just about tapped out. That has Death Touch, not Menace, right? Yeah. Okay. So if we open with that... Man, I mean, this is a little sticky wicket we're in, aren't we? Because all he has to do is block with that. Yeah, sure, I'll get my Talion back, but I won't have any way to deal with Backcrack. Is he going to block? Because if he blocks, I get my Talion back. Looks like he chose not to block. Alright. Give me the Lazotep. Lazotep comes back as... Extraction Specialist. Extraction Specialist gets that back. Now we got some creatures to fight back with, hopefully. And we can only play one more creature. So let's see what they do. Plays a Rafine's Informant. Alright, so if he's going to do that, then that means I am going to play a Fairy Vandal. Alright, good draw. Draw and discard. Oh, that was a good thing to discard. They pretty much have to come at me with everything right now. And if I'm blocking anything with the Extraction Specialist, it's going to be that Rafine over there. Or the Rafine's Informant, I mean. Because I want that to die, so that then my Fairies Vandal can attack on the following turn. And if they don't attack with anything, I just fly over and win next turn. So it all comes down to this. This is actually a fairly tense match. There's the timer. Nah. Yeah. I guess he didn't see any way out of it either. Alright, so we got 4 lands. 2 of them are Restless Reef, so they're going to be coming in to play tap no matter what. Then we have Obira, Fairy Fencing, and Sheldred's Edict. So we'll keep it, and the game plan is Restless Reef on 1, Dark Slick on 2. Alright, let's go and play the Dark Slick. Say next, and end turn. Well, they play the Deep Cavern Bat. Alright, it comes in, and we do this. Get to look at my hand, but that's it. Alright, next turn is another Restless Reef. Say next, end turn. Hey, Connor? Come on. Everybody in. River, come on. We go. Alright, so who wants to draw a card and lose a life? Sounds like fun. Alright, end of turn, play Obira. Land for turn, play Talion, naming 2. Attack for 2. Do you believe Talion is the only non-flash creature in this deck? Llanowar Wastes. So this is a black and green build. Got a little Mirex action, the Dread Knight. Plays Liliana.
No more distractions.
Sacrifice a creature. Alright. I'll sacrifice one of my 3 Obiras. Knock her out. And play Obira. And a Dark Slick Shores, and we end the turn. Hey, that's a twofer. Resolve. Alright, now that it's there, pay 0, confirm, kill it. Now you get to see what my hand is. So, some free scouting information, nothing else. Alright, drew another card. Hell yeah. Alright, play Cross Eidetic Memory. We draw a card. Alright, cool. Let's go ahead and play this Mirex. Next. Give that a +1. Then we attack for 6. End turn. Play Forest into a Liliana. Okay. Let's see what they do with that.
Nobody knows Dominaria's shadows like me.
Sacrifice a creature. Alright, I will create a Mirex token. Sacrificed.
Haven't you ever heard of personal space?
Yep, big dude. You got it, champ. Also, Dread Knight. Draw a card. Thank you. And that Talion is really good at punishing folks. Now let's play Underground River. Next. This will attack here. And this will attack here. Oh wait, this can just attack here. Let's go do that. GG. Okay, and we are back with the post-game wrap. And I get a few things that I want to talk about with this deck, and most of it lies in the removal. The Fairy Fencing is really good. For only 1 black mana, you can give something -3/-3 if you have a fairy on the table, which is not hard to achieve. It's very easy. But it being backed up with only Sheldra's Edict makes it a little bit difficult, because you don't really have any way to kill like a really big creature or like a or like key targeting of a very problematic creature or planeswalker. So I think we probably want to cut this in favor of either go for the throat or I think the card's named Bitter End. It's a card, 2 mana, just destroy target creature or planeswalker, and then you either discard a card or pay 3 life as an additional cost. I kind of like that one more because it hits whatever this one hits, as well as being targetable. So it's kind of a better card. So I think we might be swapping that out for that card. Let's see. The creatures are solid. The Obira, the Fairy Vandal, the Fairy Mastermind, all great cards for punishing your opponent's plays, just because of the fact that they come in at flash speed. Spell Stutter is a great counterspell. Make Disappear is great too, but the thing with that is these both need to be played in the early game, because the longer the game goes on, the worse these 2 cards get. So if you got them early, cast them. Don't be afraid to cast them at things that you might think aren't very important, because that little bit of tempo could be the difference between winning next turn or being dead now. Okay, and then also there's the Prophetic Memory. This one I think is a really cool card just because of the fact that it makes your flyers bigger just by playing the deck as it's intended to be played. And also it draws a card off of itself when it comes into play. It's kind of like the blue version of Up the Beanstalk. Instead of focusing on cards that cost a lot of mana to cast, it's just draw more cards, get more profit. So kind of a good card. And being able to give extra counters to Fairy Vandal that is already getting counters based off of when you draw additional cards during your turn. And then there's also the Fairy Mastermind, which is more of something to punish your opponent when they draw extra cards. See, the Winged Portent, I really only played it once in the games that we played today, but it was a damn good play. I think we draw like 3, almost 4 cards off of that card. Really solid. As far as a 3 mana draw spell that is conditional, I think it's pretty good. Invasion of Amonkhet is an absolute house in this deck. This is one of those cards that you want to be drawing early just so that you can get your flyers on the board and knock this out. This card saved my hide on more than one occasion. And then, of course, Talion. I wasn't expecting him to be as much of an MVP card in this deck, but he really was. It's like shoring up the matches where these little guys don't necessarily make the distance. This guy's extra reach and punishing play pattern against your opponent is it's really solid. I'm definitely going to be keeping Talion in this deck. Aside from that, looking at the lands, 4 copies of Mirex, 4 copies of Restless Reef. Even when you're not drawing your creatures, you still have your lands able to work for you. So I'm going to keep the 4x Mirex and the 3x Restless Reef in here, just for that reason alone. Aside from that, I think the deck looks good. It's not like a top tier performing competitive build. I mean, this deck will get run over by other decks that aren't quite as dirtily. Because this deck, while this deck is a pretty straightforward, like mid-range beater deck, it will still get run over by decks that are more refined. Decks like Mono Red, or if you get paired up against, say, Selesnya enchantments and they just have the nuts draw, like they'll probably run you over as well. But if you're playing against slower builds that need a little bit more time to get their bearings, kind of like how this deck operates as well, then I think you'll have a pretty good time. Probably the deck that gave me the most trouble today was actually Selesny Enchantments. That deck gave me a little bit of trouble. I played quite a bit against Mono Red and Boros Convoke, and Boros Convoke ended up being the easier of the two decks to beat. Mono Red was a lot more difficult, and I think it's mostly because there's not a whole lot of life gain in this deck to counterbalance those very vicious first 3 turns that Mono Red puts up. So, well, that is the deck. Like I said, not the most powerful, but it is a very fun build to play, and one that I think I will be keeping in my library for future use. I did really enjoy playing this build, just because of all of the little variations and things that you can do over the course of the game. So, yeah, there it is. If this deck looked interesting to you, take a look down in the description box down below. I'll have a link to the deck list ready there for you. So, there you go. Now that you've seen it, go play some games and take care of yourselves.